For those of you who don't know me, or it's been a little while since I've been in here, my name is Stephen Tunnicliffe. I'm one of the pastors in training here. I am a teacher. I teach math, science, Bible, and I try to teach logic to junior hires at a Christian school. And when I'm not doing that, I am married to my wife, Lauren. We have been married for 8 years, and we will be celebrating 9 in November. And we also have 2 kids. My daughter, Julia, is 4 years old. She just turned 4 this past week. And I still don't understand how it's possible that I have a 4-year-old who will be coming to school with me next year. I feel like it was just yesterday or whatever that I was saying, hey, I've got a kid. And now she's going to be coming to school with me. Though she already has everything figured out, apparently. She knows everything. 4-year-olds, they know that kind of stuff. And then I also have my son, Nathan. He will be turning 1 next week. And he is the happiest baby in the world. He is also extremely mischievous. And he's crawling everywhere, getting into, and he looks at me. He knows. He gives me this look right before he goes and does something that he's not supposed to. He's like, are you going to try to stop me? And as soon as I start moving, that's when he bolts for it. So my life is never boring. At work, at home, high schoolers and junior hires at work, and then small children at home. But that's enough about me. Why don't we pray, and then we'll dive into the Word tonight. Dear God, I thank you for this day. I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you that you are here with us. Lord, I pray that you would meet with us. I pray that you would speak to us. I pray that you would use me. I pray that the words that come out of my mouth would not be my own, but that they would be yours. Lord, I just pray that you would get the glory and you would get the honor tonight, and that you would speak to us through your word. In your name, amen. So I don't know about you guys, but ever since I was small, I have thought that magicians are like one of the coolest things in the world. I love going to see magicians perform, love going to see magic shows. I know it's not real, but, well, I didn't know that when I was young, but it's so cool, and that has stuck with me my entire life. I still, some of my favorite movies to watch are the ones with the magicians, and granted, it's not real magic because they've got all of Hollywood behind them as well, and that makes performing mind-bending feats so much easier with special effects. But I think it's just so cool, these magicians, and that they can do things that boggle my mind. I remember I was in high school, and our church had a magician who was a comedian come in, and he did a fundraiser, and he pulls out this paper pad, and he draws a bowling ball on it. And then he turns it around and he shakes the paper, and out falls an actual bowling ball. And I have no idea how he did that. But it has stuck with me ever since I was in high school, I can't even remember how many years ago now. The thing about magicians, their job is to fool you. They're telling you, pay attention to this over here, while their other hand is making the ball disappear. Or they're trying to put the quarter in your ear, but the quarter never actually leaves their hand. See, what they know, what magicians know, and what they get their livelihood off of is the fact that human senses can be fooled. Human senses can be tricked. I teach this to my students every year before I start teaching science, because science is all based on our observations. But our senses can be fooled. Our senses can be tricked. deceived. And when you go to see a magician perform, you are really paying for somebody to deceive you in an entertaining way, in something that's going to leave you feeling mystified. But at its most basic essence, they are lying to you. They are tricking you. Not maliciously, but that's what they're doing. They're taking advantage of the fact that our senses can be fooled. And in the passage that we're going to be reading today, Joshua chapter 9, verses 1 through 14, we are going to see the Israelites get fooled. They're going to make one big mistake in this passage. And I want you guys to look for it as we read through it here. There is one big mistake that the Israelites make that makes all the difference in their decision. Okay, so Joshua chapter 9, verses 1 through 14. We'll go ahead and take it verse by verse here, or part by part, because I find I usually do not get it all right off the bat just by reading it. So we'll take it piece by piece here. We start in verse 1. It says, "Now it came about when all the kings who were beyond the Jordan, in the hill country, and in the lowland, and on all the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite and the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite heard of it." Yeah, I got to stop for just a second here. Set the background now. I'm guessing that most of you have been in here before, and so you know we've been going through the book of Joshua, which is the story of Israel coming in and taking the promised land. There was just one slight problem. There were already people living there. And so they had to fight to take their land back. And so when it says the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and the Gophlaiakites, it says when all these ites heard of it, what is it that they are talking about? It's talking about the destruction of Jericho and the destruction of Ai. These two cities completely annihilated. Now, in Canaan at the time, as Israel is coming in, they don't have a unified nation that they have to kick out. It's actually several different divided groups. I mean, you heard me list the different groups. They all were in like little city-states, small areas, and they all hated each other, which makes it easy which shows God's providence in choosing this as the time to send the Israelites in, because it's much easier to defeat a whole bunch of fragmented groups than one unified front. But anyway, so they hear of this. And there are two different responses that come out of this here. In verse 2, it says, "They gathered themselves together with one accord to fight with Joshua and with Israel." Now, all these people that were mentioned, it's talking about Israel at this time was kind of split. The book of Joshua focuses on two basic areas of conquest: southern Israel and then northern Israel. So all the nations that are being talked about in this chapter are the ones who are in the southern part of Israel. They are all unifying here to go and fight against Joshua because they're recognizing this guy, this new nation that has come from across the Jordan, that came from Egypt and has destroyed two of our two cities over here already, they're a big deal. So we need to unite to fight against them in order to save ourselves. That's the first response. We're not going to talk too much about their response because we're going to focus on the second group. In verse 3, it tells us, "When the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and to Ai." Now, real quick, Gibeon. Now, if you have your Bibles and they happen to have a map in the back, you can go ahead and take a look at where was Gibeon. But so, Promised Land, Joshua's journey in, he comes across the Jordan right here, and he hits Jericho. God destroys Jericho for him. He comes to Ai after a short little mess up. They destroy Ai. The next city, somewhere around 5 miles down the road, if that, was Gibeon. And so the Gibeonites hear about what is coming their way. They hear that the previous 2 cities on their neighborhood have been completely wiped out. And so they see they are next in line. And instead of uniting with all of the other Canaanite tribes, they decide they're going to try something different. It says in verse 4, they also acted craftily and set out as envoys, and took worn-out sacks on their donkeys, and wineskins worn out and torn and mended, and worn out and patched sandals on their feet, and worn out clothes on themselves, and all the bread of their provision was dry and had become crumbled. So just as a magician does not just walk up onto stage with no preparation whatsoever, they have sneaky ways of preparing for things. They have a key to the safe that they're about to be locked in, hidden somewhere on their body. Or they have an ordinary hat that it actually isn't an ordinary hat. You just have to know the trick. Or it's the box that makes things look like they disappear, but it's not. They have to prepare the deception. And that's what the Gibeonites do. They set up their deception by dressing in very old, worn-out clothes. The packs on their donkeys are falling apart. The wineskins to hold their drinks are barely held together. They're sewed together. They look like they're about to fall apart. And so they're coming with dry and crusty and moldy bread, all to set up the illusion, the deception. And here's what they do. They went to Joshua, to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, "We have come from a far country. Now, therefore, make a covenant with us." There's the first lie. They weren't from a far country. They were less than 5 miles down the road. But they come in and they say, "We have come from a very far country," or from a far country. And maybe they were trying to justify it in their minds, like anybody else ever watched Star Wars, where Obi-Wan says, "I didn't lie, I just told it from a certain point of view." I suppose 5 miles might feel like a long distance, and maybe they could say it's far, but it's a lie. So they come in and say, "We have come from a far country, make a covenant with us." This was something that God explicitly told the Israelites not to do in Exodus chapter 23. God told them, do not make a covenant with any of the nations in the promised land, because God knew that these nations would lead Israel astray. And that's exactly what the Gibeonites are asking the Israelites to do. The men of Israel said to the Hivites, "Perhaps you are living within our country or within our land. How then shall we make a covenant with you?" Now see, Israelites, they know what they're supposed to do. They know they're not supposed to make a covenant with any of the nations in this land. They know that they are supposed to kick them out and take this land to be their own. And so they're clever enough to recognize, hey, maybe these guys are trying to lie to us. And then the Gibeonites respond. They say, but they said to Joshua, "We are your servants." They didn't actually answer the question. And when they say, "We are your servants," that is specifying the type of covenant that they are trying to establish with Israel. In national politics at this time, if you went up to another nation and asked for a covenant and said, "We are your servants," you You were basically acknowledging, you are more powerful than us. Please don't kill us, and we will serve you. So basically, the covenant that they're looking for is, we will serve you as long as you don't kill us. And then they double down on the lie. We are your servants. Then Joshua said to them, who are you and where do you come from? See, Joshua knows the same question. He asks the same question. And here's their response. They said to him, your servants have come from a very far country. Notice it's not just a far country this time. No, they've got to, let's push it even further back. This is a very far country. Because of the fame of the Lord your God, for we have heard the report of him and all he did in Egypt, and all he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and to Og, king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. You notice they don't mention what happened to Jericho and to Ai. This is part of the deception. Jericho and Ai, those are recent developments. If the Gibeonites come and say, we've heard of what God did to Egypt and to these 2 kings past the Jordan and to Jericho and to Ai, all of a sudden, Joshua's going to be like, how did you hear about what happened to Ai if you've been journeying this entire time? Verse 11. So our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, take provisions in your hand for the journey, and go meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Now then, make a covenant with us. This, our bread, was warm when he took it for our provisions, lie, out of our houses on the day that we left to come to you. But now, behold, it is dry and has become crumbled. These wineskins which we filled were new, and behold, they are torn. Lie. Well, not lying about the fact that the wineskins are torn, but lying about the fact that they were new when they filled them up. And these our clothes and our sandals are worn out because of the very long journey. Lie, lie, lie. And one thing I want you to notice with this, and I am sure that you have experienced and noticed, is that it's never just one lie. As a kid, I got in so much trouble because I lied. And then I told another lie to keep from getting in trouble for that lie. Then I told another lie. It's never just one lie. That's not how a deception doesn't stop at just a single lie, and then you're free and clear. That is a lie from Satan, who tells us, if you tell this one lie, you'll be free. No. Then you have to live the rest of your life lying about the lies that you said before. Verse 14. So the men of Israel took some of their provisions. They went and checked it. They checked the bread. They looked at the wineskins. They looked at the clothes and the sandals, and they said, it's true. This bread is nasty. These wineskins, I can't believe they're still holding together. Those clothes, I feel like we should give you some new clothes. And did not ask for the counsel of the Lord. Now, I'm betting that many of us in this room have been in church often enough to recognize what was Israel's big mistake. They failed to consult with God. And because they failed to consult with God, I'm sorry, I can't leave it at 14. I got to read 15 just so that you know what they did as a response here. Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the leaders of the congregation swore an oath to them. They broke God's command. Why? Because they trusted in their own senses, which can be fooled, and which were fooled. You know, I often read the Old Testament and I read about the Israelites and I think, what fools? How do they not get the point? They got to watch God topple a city in front of them. All they did was walk around it and shout. They've seen God provide for them miraculously. He parted rivers. And they don't think, oh, maybe we should ask God if these guys are lying. But then I have to be honest with myself. Because if I'm truly being honest, the problem that they made here is that they walked by sight and not by faith. And how many times have I trusted in my own understanding? How many times have I thought, I've got this figured out? I can see through the deceptions. I know the best way to go. See, I think the reason why God gives the Israelites as such a powerful example in the Old Testament of people who just cannot seem to get the point is because we're all in the same boat. We all walk by sight when we should be walking by faith. And the reality that we face today and every day is that there are voices out there all over the place that are trying to tell us lies. You turn on the TV. Doesn't matter what program you're watching. You find lies. You go on the internet. You find lies. You listen to the news. You find lies. You find people's voices all trying to tell you this is the truth. It's overwhelming how many different voices we have in our life trying to tell us how we should live. And our senses can be fooled. Let us not make the same mistake that Israel did. We need to consult God in order to avoid and combat the deception that is thrown at us each and every single day of our lives. We need to be in this Word, and we need to be talking to God. I just try to imagine what would my life look like if I took that moment to ask God for guidance in everything. What if the next time I need to discipline my child, and 4-year-olds give lots of opportunities for that, what if the next time I need to discipline my child, instead of instantly jumping to, here's what I've done all this time, what if I stopped and prayed, God, give me wisdom. God, show me how to respond. Would my response be different? Would my life be different if every time I run into a question, a concern, I said, God, show me the way? I believe that the answer is yes. I have no doubt that if I chose to do that every day, every decision, my life would look different. We need to walk by faith and not by sight, because our senses can be fooled. Let me share one final thought, and then we'll go ahead and close in prayer. I wish I could say that if you read your Bible an hour every day and you pray as often as you can, that you will never be lied to. But that's not the case. I can't promise you that you won't be deceived. I can't promise you that you won't have people come up to you and still try to lie to you. But there are two things I can promise you. If you are seeking after God, He will help you to spot the deceptions. And the second thing comes later on in this book. Even though Israel made a huge mistake, they were lied to and they fell for it, God still took what happened with the Gibeonites and used it for good. But in order to know what that is, you'll have to come back again. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for your word, and we thank you for you. God, we recognize that we live in a sinful, broken world that is trying to change what truth is. It is trying to tell us each and every day how we should live our lives, and it is not telling us how to follow you every day. Lord, please protect us. Help us to draw near to you, to consult with you, so that we may have the best chance at avoiding lies. Lord, I pray that you would just walk with us. I pray that you would bless us, that you would draw us to yourself, that our desire would be you, and that you would use us to bring you glory. And in your name, amen.